The moment the airlock sealed behind me and the alien twins smiled in perfect unison, I realized my joke had just signed my death warrant. Their eyes, too bright, too knowing, locked onto mine as the translation implant in my ear pulsed once, painfully as if warning me. Around us, the diplomatic chamber of Station Halcyon fell silent. No humming consoles, no murmuring delegates. Just me, standing alone, and two identical alien women stepping closer. "And so," the taller one said softly, "the bond is spoken." That was when the guards gasped. And I understood, far too late, that humor does not translate well across the stars. But that was only the beginning. 3 hours earlier, I'd been just another human cultural liaison with a borrowed suit and a permanent sense of imposter syndrome. Station Halcyon orbited a dying blue star, a neutral ground where wars were prevented and misunderstandings carefully curated. My job was to explain humanity's messiness to species who valued logic over laughter. The twins were new arrivals, representatives of the Eshari Confluence. Identical in form, mirror-perfect in movement. Their skin shimmered like polished pearl, and faint bioluminescent veins traced patterns that shifted with their emotions. They were beautiful in a way that felt engineered, deliberate, and terrifying. They introduced themselves as Eshari and Laren. One mind, two bodies. A dual-conscious species that made human psychology look like a broken toy. From the start, they watched me like I was a puzzle missing a piece. That should have been my first warning. The joke slipped out because I was nervous. We were halfway through a reception meant to foster informal bonding. Alien wine burned like liquid starlight, and someone, somehow, asked why humans paired romantically with only one individual. I laughed. A brittle, defensive sound. "Well," I said, lifting my glass, "I'm single." So clearly we're not very good at it. The room chuckled. Even a few aliens attempted polite approximations of laughter. The twins did not laugh. They tilted their heads, in perfect symmetry, and something ancient shifted behind their eyes. What I saw next changed everything. Within minutes, the mood changed. The twins' attendants whispered urgently. Eshari symbols glowed faintly along the chamber walls. I felt like gravity itself had subtly reoriented, everything pulling toward me. Eshari stepped forward, her voice lowered, intimate. "You have declared availability. Publicly. Without coercion." "I know." I started, smiling too fast. "That was a joke. A human thing." Laren frowned, identical confusion mirrored across two faces. "There is no lexical equivalent for joke in this context," she said. "Your statement meets all criteria of a formal bond invitation." The guard stiffened. Human and alien alike. My translator pulsed again. Hot. Insistent. And then the words that froze my blood arrived in my ear. Proposal accepted. They escorted me out before I could protest. Not arrested. Not restrained. Honored. I was led through corridors that shifted color as we passed, toward a private observation suite overlooking the star. The twins followed close, their presence pressing in on my thoughts like static. "You don't understand," I said for the 10th time. "Humans don't propose by saying they're single." Eshari's glow dimmed slightly. "Concern, perhaps. Your species disguises truth as humor," she said. "We have studied this." Laren added, "But Eshari bonding law does not allow retraction after public declaration. To do so invites catastrophe." That word echoed in my mind. Catastrophe. None of us were prepared for the truth behind it. They explained slowly, carefully, as if afraid I might shatter. The Eshari twins were not diplomats by choice. They were anchors, living stabilizers for a civilization on the brink. Their species required a triadic bond to survive periods of stellar instability. 2 Eshari, 1 external consciousness, a third mind to complete the circuit. Without it, their people would fracture into madness within a generation. "You were not chosen at random," Eshari said softly. "We have observed you for years." My chest tightened. "Observed me? You lost someone," Laren said. "Your mate. Earth year 4 prior." I stopped breathing. "How could they know that?" "You survived grief without closure," she continued. "You function despite emotional void. This makes you compatible." The star outside flared violently, light rippling across the glass. "But there is a complication," Eshari said. Of course there was. The complication was me. Human minds weren't built for shared consciousness. Previous attempts, rare, forbidden experiments buried in classified archives, ended in neural collapse or identity dissolution. Death was the kinder outcome. You will feel us, Laren said. All the time. Our thoughts. Our fears. And you will feel the confluence, Eshari added. Billions of minds, stabilized through us. I backed away until my shoulders hit the glass. So if I say no, I whispered, what happens? The twins exchanged a look. Something raw and unguarded passed between them. Our sun destabilizes, Eshari said. Our people die. The silence that followed was absolute. But that was only the beginning of the moral trap closing around me. I spent the night alone, staring at the star, listening to it groan like a living thing. Earth flashed through my mind. Rain-soaked streets. Coffee gone cold. The memory of a laugh that would never echo again. I had promised myself never to bind my life to another being so completely. And now the universe itself was asking me to break that promise. When morning came, if it could be called that on a station without a sunrise, I asked for data. Proof. Something to anchor the impossible. They gave me everything. Records of failed bonds. Of species that tried and burned out. Of one human test subject, decades ago, who lasted 6 weeks before begging for oblivion. I should have run. Instead, I noticed something else. Every record ended the same way. The twins wept. That was the midpoint where my fear shifted into something else. Empathy. The Eshari twins weren't conquerors or manipulators. They were sacrifices, raised from birth to give up autonomy for survival. Their smiles were practiced. Their calm, a discipline forged by necessity. They didn't want me. They needed me. And worse, they were terrified I would say no. What I saw then wasn't an alien threat. It was a mirror. The bonding chamber was ancient, older than the station itself. Symbols etched into black stone pulsed with slow, rhythmic light. The air felt thick, like standing underwater. Once begun, Laren warned, there is no separation. I thought of the joke. The stupid, human joke. Funny how the smallest words could tilt civilizations. I stepped forward. Tell me the truth, I said. Will I still be me? The twins hesitated. Yes, Eshari said. Then quieter, and no. I closed my eyes. Then let's not lie to each other anymore. The moment our hands touched, the universe cracked open. Their thoughts poured into me, color without sight, sound without vibration. Love, not romantic but vast and stabilizing. Fear so old it had names carved into it. I felt their people like distant stars, each one a flicker of fragile consciousness. And they felt me, my grief, my anger, my loneliness. I felt them gasp, not in shock, but in understanding. The star outside steadied, but inside me, everything was chaos. I screamed. They held me, and slowly, impossibly, the noise settled. Days passed, or weeks. Time blurred when your thoughts were no longer entirely private. I learned their language without studying. They learned the taste of coffee and the ache of nostalgia. We argued, not with words, but with emotional pressure, compromise forming instinctively. It was intimate in a way no human relationship could be. And yet, something was missing. One night, as the star pulsed peacefully, I felt their unease ripple through me. There is imbalance, Laren admitted. The bond is stable but incomplete. My heart sank. What does that mean? Eshari's light dimmed. It means you were never meant to be the third. The room felt suddenly very small. What? I whispered. You were the catalyst, she said. Not the solution. None of us were prepared for that truth. The Eshari prophecy, buried beneath ritual and translation errors, spoke of a bridge, not a pillar. A human consciousness to teach the twins how to choose. They didn't need a permanent bond. They needed to learn how to let go. The realization shattered them. It shattered me too. If I left, their people might survive without me. If I stayed, I would be living a lie that slowly hollowed us all. The choice wasn't cosmic anymore. It was personal. I withdrew my hands, and the chamber did not collapse. The goodbye was quiet. No guards. No ceremony. Just 3 minds, slowly disentangling. I'm sorry, Eshari said. So am I replied. The twins watched as I boarded the shuttle back to the human sector. For the first time, their movements weren't synchronized. They were learning. As the station drifted away, my implant pulsed one last time. Not with words, with gratitude. Years later, when humans and Eshari walk freely between worlds, they ask me what it was like. I tell them the truth. I made a joke. The universe took it seriously. And for a brief moment, I belonged to something vast enough to forgive me for being human. That memory still burns like a star behind my eyes. And it always will.